Sound is one of the most important parts when filming for an interview, along with lighting. Why is this so?
Obviously for sound, obviously you want a clear, importantly you obviously want clear, concise footage, because otherwise you're going to sit there and people are going to get bored of the interview and turn it off, so you need, that's why it's important. Lighting, obviously it depends entirely on the mood you want to get from the interview. Obviously if it's a very serious interview, you need quite hard lighting, whereas it's kind of general, a bit of a laugh sort of thing, interview, sort of soft lighting. So it creates the mood and sort of the interview, and depends on what sort of seriousness of the interview is.
What do you think would be the most ideal place/location for filming an interview in terms of getting the best sound quality and lighting?
Again, in terms of best location, it would depend on your subject and the subject matter and where they are. Again, you want somewhere pretty quiet, there's not too busy, so you haven't got any sort of bleeding of a sound. In terms of general room, you kind of want almost like a carpeted room, somewhere that's not got solid floors, solid ceilings, because the sound will bounce off and you'll sort of get an echo, which will sound quite bad.
What's the best equipment to use when recording an interview? What would you recommend? And where is the best place for a mic to go to get the best sound quality?
In terms of interviews, you are probably best to go for something like a lapel mic attached to the H4n. In terms of the locations for the thing, as it says, I think it's the lapel mic, but you probably sort of a hair somewhere. Depends on sort of the outfit you're into wearing stuff, but sort of mid-level here would be best to get a good sound quality.
What would be the best lighting positions for an interview? Does the choice of background matter?
Best lighting, again, it entirely depends on location and what the look you're going for. The background does matter. Basically, you want something that's basically got stuff in the background that's not too busy, but you don't want a completely plain background, whereas it just sort of stands it off. And I'm trying to think of the best way of putting it. So there's not too much. Basically, you don't want to film there's too much movement in the background. You've got to consider obviously your background is also your location to put background. It depends on what you're interviewing. So like if you're interviewing, say, somebody, what is your subject matter again? Sorry.
We're doing like body image, so we're going to be interviewing plastic surgeons, people who have had plastic surgery, experienced models as well.
Okay, so in that case then you probably might not want to be filming them in a sea world, you know what I mean? For example, extreme example, where you've got all fish behind, because it's completely nothing to do with the interviewer. The idea is the audience might not know it, but they'll think it's a bit off-putting and think something's wrong there. So you sort of want, obviously if you're plastic surgeons, you may want their office, models, you want some natural, something comfortable for them, something that's sort of relevant to the subject.
What's the best way to create a silhouetted shot?
Best way is there's a couple of ways, but it depends again what you look for, but basically you want your lighting behind the subject matter, so that the subject sort of hides the light, so you've sort of got almost like a halo effect, or the other option is you could have lights that are sort of either side, left and right of the subject, so it points to the side but don't basically shows the face.
Okay. Do you have any tips for interviewing? Are there any specific techniques we should consider, such as camera angles?
There's no real specific. Again, it depends on what look you're going for. Whether you want just the interviewer, sort of the interviewee in there, or you want yourselves in there to be in shot. So it depends on how you want the look and what you want to do. Best sort of way is sort of either have the camera straight on at the subject, whether the subject's straight looking out, or just to turn the subject sort of slightly to the side. So it gives it a bit more 3D look, so they're not faced directly onto the camera, because it kind of looks almost like 2D and a bit flat.
And do you have any other camera tips, for example, like the rule of thirds or multiple camera?
Multiple cameras, you can use multiple cameras, it gives you sort of more angles to go with, and when you're editing, keeps it sort of a bit more fresh every time. So especially if they've got a point where they're sort of got a long sort of answer to a specific question, you can sort of cut to another camera and you're not sat there looking at the screen going, okay, they're going to finish the sort of interview. Rule of thirds, again, you sort of remember you want to sort of put the camera not subject dead centre, but maybe slightly off centre, sort of eye level, sort of top third, sort of eye levels of the top third.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.